Hi, Spots and Cheap Pops. You're on the air.
Bloody Dotty, Silicon Steve Valley, we are back. And we got a packed show for you today. We're going to unpack everything with The Rock, Bloody Dotty, and of course, yours truly, I'm going to take to you on the second part of this podcast. We're going to go through AEW Revolution, review it. Arguably the best pay-per-view of 2024 thus far. Bloody Dotty, The Rock, coming back, showing everybody how real great heel work is done. Your thoughts, The Rock, on his return to SmackDown tonight and flipping the switch on Cody and, of course, the Walking Clown Show, Seth Rollins. Your thoughts on The Rock laying the challenge to Cody and Seth with The Rock and Roman, and maybe a little tension between Rock and Roman afoot. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Rock had a really cool day today because he went live or put a video out on Instagram or social media and actually broke down his feud with Cody and told you everything that is going through his mind. Showed you all his cards, basically.
That was brilliant.
And, yeah, it was great. I mean, this is the sort of thing that if he could do and stay in this position of heel power, and do this on the quarterly basis, even if, and, as we go forward. This is huge. And one of the, things that stuck out for me was, I mentioned it both times today and tonight, wrestling is cool again. It's like, wow, he's like trying to because back, you and I were there for the Attitude Era, where you go into a bar, you do a couple of wrestling signs or, gestures or something with complete strangers. All of a sudden you have another, 10 best friends or so. And just because you're a wrestling fan, it was cool to watch Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H during the Attitude Era. It was so popular. And Rock is definitely reaching for that once again, with him being at the focal point of it. So I love the hype video or whatever, the historical video he did, where he even worked in Dave LaGreca. LaGreca is going off on a Cody rant. Rock hates the Cody crybabies. He makes LaGreca seem like the poster child wearing a pink robe and everything. And he just goes off. And we haven't seen this sort of Rock in a long time. So he sort of draws his plans out for you.
Yeah, probably 98.
It's be at
the last time. It was 98. Literally 98 since we saw this version of The Rock.
And it's been a long time. And it's so we saw it back then, but now we're seeing the one that's sitting at the head of the board, who's a major movie star, has been allowed to go and trademark anything that he says, basically, and he makes all the revenue. Nobody else has that deal at WWE. This is insane. So he is playing up on this. And what we're also seeing is the evolving story of the bloodline. We are starting to see a struggle within for the first time. It was always Roman who led that table. Now all of a sudden you have The Rock. And it's a different vibe. And then watching SmackDown and watching how Glendale, Arizona was not acknowledging the tribal chief. Roman played it beautifully. You look at Heyman, how he's reacting. Especially when Roman says he's about to go home. And Heyman's like, no, we didn't fulfill our obligations here. And what is the obligation was they needed to be out there for The Rock. Yep. So even Heyman sort of knows who's already calling the shots. And he's trying to be the faithful wise man still to Roman. And it's great. Heyman's otherworldly. So then you have
Heyman's
Roman
worried
out there.
Heyman has shown that he's worried about this relationship already.
Oh yeah. He starts sensing through him that they may be in over their heads. And
that's a good one. I like that.
So then you have a situation there where The Rock is there and he's cutting a promo in Glendale / Phoenix, Arizona. very 98 Rock, as you said, a way like MJF wishes he could probably put people in the ground. Like The Rock doing this sort of like these sort of driving these sort of lines through the crowd is a different level.
Well, he's saying the kind of things that MJF would say, but he's the fucking Rock doing it.
Rock, yeah.
And it's a much bigger deal. No offense to MJF. MJF's, he's still just a little dude in AEW. Hasn't really, I mean, you're talking about a global superstar of any entertainment value.
Yeah.
And he's saying the kind of things that MJF, like dirtbag heel MJF, would say. They were like, oh my God, I can't believe you say that. The Rock seems like he even upped his game from what he was saying from 25, 30 years ago. 30, but 25 years ago. I mean, the stuff he was saying tonight, calling the crowd a bunch of crackhead Karens.
Yep.
And what was it, meth mollies?
Then the cactus loving crackheads was another one.
Cactus loving. I mean, he just went off because he's like, I don't know if you guys know you broke a record. Apparently, your area is the biggest crack cocaine and methamphetamine population in the country. Like, he literally just called them out for problem. And by the way, meth is bad out there, for the record.
Yeah.
Not it's just that I don't know how much of a shoot it was, and it was the worst. But yeah, it's cutting to the core of the stuff that MJF used to say, and we were like, "Whoa, that guy's so cool to do it." But he didn't have a brand at stake, and he's not talking to the biggest stars in wrestling. This is The Rock, and he's telling 20,000 people on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis now the funniest stuff to just clown the audience. And quite frankly, I'm here for it. So I'm there. It's great.
Yeah, so, when The Rock got out to that ring, different level out there compared to Roman.
Oh, Roman's not even almost non-existent. Roman has been an afterthought.
And Rock is overshadowing not only Roman, but the existing bloodline. Like, he mentions Jimmy. Then he got the crowd, like, he's starting to joke about Solo. Solo, he can sing the national anthem if I want him to. You should hear his voice. And then all of a sudden there was a Solo chant. And you can see Solo's having some issues. He's like looking at Roman like, should I go and spike this guy or what? You see it. You're starting to sense it. Yeah, he's like, he's ready. Solo doesn't dig what's going on here. I'd love to play cards with Solo is what I'm saying right now. So Rock continues, cuts through the stadium, goes and then decides, and you and I discussed this about a couple of weeks ago, WrestleMania Night 1. Cody went and challenged The Rock. The Rock is not giving it to him his way. Now on WrestleMania Night 1, we have a tag team match. And there's a stipulation. You have Roman and Rock versus Seth and Cody. If Roman and Rock wins, the match the following night for the world title is Bloodline rules. If Cody and Seth wins the night before, it is the Bloodline is barred from the ring. Everybody, it's just Roman and Cody. So very interesting stipulation there. And as he continued to set the stipulation, again, Roman didn't set it. It's The Rock setting it. As he continues with this, he wants to finish up the night with his finally, and then basically do his spiel. Roman goes and stops him mid-word. And if you want to enjoy pro wrestling, watch Heyman's face when he sees that Roman has stopped The Rock. Like, Heyman's so nervous about what is about to happen here. And Roman Reigns went and asked The Rock to go and acknowledge him. To which Rock did so, definitely lied. And then embraced a "you sold out" chant from the crowd.
They were calling them idiots.
And, yeah. So that's how this almost ends. And then you have the Bloodline standing there after the Rock and Roman embrace. And again, I don't know if you caught it. They put up the ones, and for the beginning of it, The Rock went and put up the L, or like the trigger finger up again.
Yeah.
Because it pained The Rock to say that he's the tribal chief.
So did he actually wind up doing that, though?
He ended up pushing and pulling back, but he had it there. So again, either he's having a mental issue, not able to do this, because they haven't really addressed it yet, or there's like a little bit, he's just showing you like he's not, he's the end one.
I got to go back and watch it. I only saw the YouTube part where you only saw literally The Rock and Roman talking. So I didn't see the ending. So that's interesting. Wow. Well, either way, folks, this is becoming the absolute hottest WrestleMania season we have had in 2 decades. I haven't been this excited about a WrestleMania since 17 as a shoot. Maybe 18.
Yeah.
I liked 18 too, right before I completely jumped off and started kind of doing other things with my life. So this is incredible.
And just another thing that I noted, when you watch tonight's SmackDown with The Rock out there, there's more signs out there now. People are starting to express themselves like who they're rooting for. And you know what? There was some like anti-Cody signs out there. There was Drew McIntyre sign there.
Drew McIntyre is a national treasure.
He's great. He's great at what he does. And then, like as I'm watching this too, even like the chants, like as Rock is talking, you got a Triple H chant. They're setting that table where we're going to start seeing the game basically be trying to be played by The Rock, who is actually his boss now. This is like, they can really do a lot of cool stuff with this.
It just depends on how much The Rock is going to be involved moving forward. Yeah. That's WrestleMania. That's where a lot of this is going to come down to, and that is where a lot of the storyline goes. I still wonder who the heel is going to be. Is it going to be Rock or is it going to be Roman after WrestleMania? One of them are going heel, one of them aren't. I know you think it's going to be Roman as the baby. The Rock might be too popular as a baby. That's the thing about Roman. He was never cool enough as a heel for people to cheer for him again. You look at every great heel, like The Rock, Stone Cold, MJF, even as recently as him, and so many others, even Ric Flair at points. They're so good at being heels, the crowd starts cheering for him. The Roman never had that dynamic where he was cool enough. Yeah, there were some people cheering for him and putting up the ones, but Roman has never been embraced and loved like some of the top heels of all time, like The Rock. So that's where I don't know, does Roman work better as a babyface ever?
It would hinge on how evil The Rock got as a villain. Because if, like basically, you don't know what you have until it goes away, right? So I can imagine something happened between The Rock and Roman where Roman is injured. It doesn't necessarily appear for 6 months or so. Rock does his evil bidding, gains steam. We've mentioned a few names that might be arriving soon, and maybe this is his version of the bloodline. You have the crowd already cheering for Solo. If you put Jay and Jimmy back together, that leads to a bloodline civil war. And who's the one that can maybe help change the momentum of it, especially if The Rock is winning it, is a returning Roman Reigns. That's how you get him over, my opinion.
Not bad. Well, they have a lot of options. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break right now. I'm going to be right back reviewing AEW Revolution. We hope you enjoyed it. It was a great pay-per-view. I was able to catch a lot of it. We're going to talk about that in detail when we come back. We are High Spots and Cheap Pops. Silicon, Steve Alley, and Vadi Dottie give you the best pro wrestling talk on the internet today. We catch the things the other guys don't. And we also get a little silly sometimes. Pro wrestling commentary, clips, and comedy as we try to grow a fantastic community in positivity. We're anti-dirt sheet, anti-tribalist, and we are here for the enjoyment of the most unique form of entertainment on the planet. So check out High Spots and Cheap Pops. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube and follow us where you catch your favorite podcasts. We're on Spotify and now on Apple Radio, Amazon Music, and everywhere you catch your favorite music and podcast. High Spots and Cheap Pops, the best pro wrestling talk on the internet today. Here endeth the lesson. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Lottie Dottie, want to thank him. He had to dip out real quick. We are actually going to do a review of this weekend's pay-per-view, AEW Revolution. Many people are calling it the best pay-per-view of the year thus far. There's only been about 3, so I could see that. I thought there were some extraordinary moments. I thought some of it was all entertaining. The AEW, 9 times out of 10, almost statistically, their pay-per-views are always really good. And this is certainly one of those moments. Obviously, the highlights for me, exactly what we thought. That's the thing about the pay-per-view. There were no real surprises other than maybe Kyle O'Reilly and then a video package for Pac. Everything else that happened, maybe not the way, but I mean the outcome, obviously. That's what booking and things make it interesting, because anytime you're watching a story, you typically know what's going to happen. I mean, if you go into a Marvel movie, a big surprise is awesome when it happens, but typically, no surprises here. Lottie Dottie got everything right. God bless him. He is now the Purple Nurple champion, if you don't care, or if you do care. So, Lottie Dottie, for you, my friend, this High Spots Pickup champion, the Purple Nurple, is now safely going to be against your gorgeous, beautiful Eastern European waist. Congratulations to you, Vladdy, you fuck. So he'll be getting that shortly. Now, let's get into the pay-per-view. And again, it was a lot of fun. But again, no surprises happened here. Christian led off with Daniel Garcia. Garcia loses. A lot of outside interference, particularly from Nick Wayne. Daddy Magic helped out certain parts, still backing up his buddy Daniel Garcia. But not a big surprise there. Christian obviously wins. He's going to have that title at least until that big ladder match he's eventually going to have with Adam Copeland when Adam Copeland comes back. But you know that because you're a smart mother trucker. You know where they're going. It's still been good. Christian's still one of my favorites. Every time he goes out there, it's incredible to see how good he has become. And more importantly than anything, folks, he's reinvented himself, and this is arguably the greatest run of his career. Now, I know some people, including Vladi, say maybe it's getting a little old, the dead dad shtick. He's building something, though. The patriarchy, the way he's starting to control people, including Luchasaurus. So there's a lot of good things happening with Christian. I hope they draw it out a little bit. I hope they don't have Luchasaurus turn on Adam Copeland at the match via just like Wardlow did to Punk back in the day. I'm not sure where they're going with Luchasaurus. I'd like that to be extended and to be its own thing. But obviously, Christian's going to have a big match with Adam Copeland. It's going to be a ladder match for obvious reasons. And in a very surprising spot, a match I was looking forward to, anything with Bryan Danielson I'm going to look forward to. Bryan Danielson took on Eddie Kingston. Another great match. We knew it was going to be a great match. Eddie Kingston's a hell of a worker, whatever you want to say about his cheesy little chops don't look like they hurt or whatever. The guy has really good matches, especially when he's on pay-per-view. He gave Jericho the best match Jericho's had in 3 years. Eddie Kingston is the man. I thought Danielson was going to get a piece of gold here, because he has had several opportunities to win championships and has failed every single time. I thought it would have been a nice little send-off and continue to have banger matches, but no, he continues to do the putting everybody over tour. So Danielson has been losing a lot lately. If you pay attention to New Japan, he lost to Okada. He then lost to Zack Sabre Jr. Now he loses to Eddie Kingston after losing to Eddie Kingston in the tournament. So Bryan Danielson in a real losing streak. He had the big moment here, though, was after the fact. Kingston won with a power bomb, which I didn't love that finish, but it was good with the psychology because he only had one. And they had a good psychology moment where Eddie Kingston, his hand where he can do his finisher, was hurt. And Danielson was working on it. Pretty much anytime Eddie Kingston got something going, Danielson was there to stomp on that hand. So there was good psychology. I always love that. You're going to get that with Bryan Danielson. I didn't love the power bomb finish, but it was exciting. Well, I didn't love Danielson losing with a powerbomb, but the big drama was after the fact. Would Danielson shake his hand? And to kind of look toward what Vladi Dottie said was going to happen, you're going to start seeing Bryan Danielson become a full-blown babyface more than he's been his entire run in AEW, other than maybe the first month or two, until he went against Hangman. So I think Vladi Dottie hit the nail right on the head. I don't know if he goes away from the Blackpool Combat Club because they're such tweeners and they don't do drama that much. Like, you can't see Moxley. It's not against his character to attack someone from behind just because, if there was some respect there. They're going to have to work some kind of dissension there if he's going to break away with them. But a good, really great match between the two. That was surprising to me, but Eddie Kingston continues his run as New Japan Strong, Ring of Honor, and Continental Classic champion. I would like some explanation with, are they always going to be together? Or is that what they're just going back to some traditional stuff back in the day with New Japan? I don't necessarily like seeing a guy with 3 belts, but whatever. Whatever. Like, is he going to lose them all at once? Is that what's going to happen? And does it have to be with someone from New Japan? Is it like, where is this going to shift off? I think the Eddie Kingston run, it's been good. This is his pièce de résistance. Beating Danielson, and they had a really nice promo after the match. Eddie Kingston saying how much it meant for Bryan Danielson to shake his hand and show him respect, because Bryan Danielson did, in fact, shake his hand after the match, which where all the high drama was. And that's why we're talking about Danielson turning full-blown babyface sooner than later. And the next we had the Denny's All-Star Breakfast Scramble. No surprises there. The flippy guys did really cool flippy shit. The meaty guys did really cool meaty shit. Everybody seemed to love it. It was completely unnecessary. I didn't watch it, so it wasn't a waste of my time. No surprise there. Wardlow is getting his shot at the AEW World Heavyweight Championship as he won. Everybody and their mother knew who was going to win, especially when the 2 TBAs were some rando from CMLL and Dante Martin. Like, we knew neither one of those jackoffs were winning, right? No offense. Come on. So nothing there. Really unnecessary. I think it was a situation. We've said it before. Jericho's like, I need to be on a pay-per-view. I'm Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho, you don't need to be on pay-per-views anymore that often, bud. Just reinvent yourself again, dude. Shit hadn't been popping in a while. No disrespect, and I love Chris Jericho. I'm an all-time Jericho guy as well as Vladi Dottie is. But at the end of the day, folks, there's a lot of guys that deserve to be on TV and certainly on a pay-per-view before Mr. Chris Jericho at this moment. But that's what happens, guys, when you get a certain grip of power. We've seen it time and time again throughout history. Hulk Hogan's the most famous one. Jericho's doing nothing that hasn't been done before, but he is doing it. Make no mistake. He's pulling a lot of weight to make sure he's on every big ticket so he can still get paid, and because he still feels like he deserves that kind of spotlight. I think the farewell tour needs to start happening, at least as a full-time guy. Putting it out there. Blackpool Combat Club catch Claudio Castagnoli against my boys, FTR. Really thought FTR was going to win because they've lost usually how they follow a formula. And this is actually pretty cool if they didn't, even though I was disappointed because I lost the Purple Nurple because of it. But what they typically have is Dax does a singles match. He loses in a really good banger, tough, snug match. And then FTR wins the tag match. They switched it up here. Vladi Dottie had a good point, and I think he brought it up in our preview. These guys are going to see each other again. And it'll probably now that we know that the tag team titles are going to be vacated. Sting and Darby won. And as we obviously know, the tag titles are going to be vacated. So it's a good opportunity for FTR to get that big match when it counts a little bit more. I'd like to see FTR in the finals. I honestly wouldn't want to see necessarily the Young Bucks in the finals. And in this tournament, and the reason being, I want them to be these heel jerk-off bosses where they can pick their title matches any which way they want, or they get things done the way they want. So I'd like that to be the case. Maybe FTR and the Blackpool Combat Club finish in the finals, but I can assure you they are definitely going to face each other off in this coming up tournament because this match was fantastic. You knew it would be. You got 4 of the best workers, whether you want to say about Moxley or not, and Moxley is with other great workers. He's a great worker. That's if he's not cutting himself on the fucking hard camera in the corner like a moron. God bless him. I love Moxley. So this was a banger. We knew it was going to be a banger, and it was not a dominant win, but a pretty decisive finish with both members of the Blackpool Combat Club, Castagnoli Mox, choking out both members of FTR. match over. So look forward to their rematch in the tournament. And unfortunately, you hate to say this because it was the only women's match on the card. Outside of the Denny Scramble, this was probably the least interesting match considering the hype that came into it. Still love everything Toni Storm's doing, but Toni wins a pretty forgettable match with some outside interference and some distractions from both Luther and Mariah May. The big spot was Deonna Purrazzo had Toni Storm in, I forget. Deonna Purrazzo seemingly had the match won, had Toni Storm tapping out, but Luther was involved, distraction, and Toni Storm, no surprise there, won. Again, Tony Khan does this. I bring in a big free agent, going to put him against the champion. They lose their first big program. We knew that was going to happen, though, folks. You're going to see something similar in a couple weeks, except sometimes the newcomer wins if they're really over, or Tony overvalues them, like Saraya, for example. I think he's going to do that with Mercedes Moné when he comes in, for sure. So Toni Storm moving forward, who's already said, I hear there's some great free agents out there like Wendy Richter. Well, it's not going to be Wendy Richter. We know it's going to be Mercedes Moné, a.k.a. or F.K.A. Sasha Banks. Got to be honest with you, folks. I always thought Sasha was just a tad bit overrated, and I might get some heat for that. Again, it's only going to matter how she is booked. Jay White's a great example. And by the way, Jay White cut a nice promo talking about facing Darby Allin at Business on the buy-in or 0 hour, whatever the hell they call the pre-show now. So Jay White cut a really nice promo against Darby, saying that he's going to remind everybody who he is. That's something that makes me positive. I love Jay White. You know that. Anyone listens to this show, you know how much I love Jay White. I breathe with the Switchblade. I have breathed with the Switchblade for many, many years. I was a little, and just a quick thing, and this won't make the video. Just a quick thing on Jay White. Here's a guy who had some success in Ring of Honor and had some success elsewhere on the independents. But was he going to be able to step into Kenny Omega's shoes? Holy shit, did he ever. Eclipsing everything Kenny did in terms of belts and in terms of what have you. The only thing he didn't do is have the greatest match ever, which I still think is Okada Omega at Dominion 2018. But that's beside the point. Jay White is a viable top guy, and he needs to be treated as such. And in this gangbang, scissor clang, whatever the hell they're called, I'm not loving it. But again, I'm giving it time because there's such talent amongst these six men. Just talent off the charts. And especially when you bring Juice Robinson back. But I think that's when you're going to see a little bit of a breakthrough. And I think maybe, as we said before, I think Billy Gunn gets reunited with his children. Orange Cassidy defended his title against whatever dude 3 from the Undisputed Era. Actually, he was the fourth guy, wasn't it? For forgetting about Bobby Fish, but we forget about Bobby Fish. Not because he shit on anyone's face or got promised sex in a contract. We forget about him because he's very forgettable. Where's the lie? But I digress. Roderick Strong beats Orange Cassidy. The surprise of this match is that Roderick Strong won cleanly. And the big surprise, probably the biggest surprise of the night overall, Kyle O'Reilly, was some speculation that when he was coming back or if he was going to come back at all. If you've been paying attention, it seemed like it was a positive thing that he'd be back eventually. But Kyle O'Reilly, for a time, wasn't sure he would come back. He showed back up, embraced Roderick Strong, but did not accept the invitation into the Undisputed Era 3.0, called the Undisputed Kingdom. So that's interesting to see, and I like that because I think we all thought O'Reilly would come back and be part of that. So if they can now have a situation, we've seen it before. Hey, I need you to join my team. I need you to join my squad because if you're not with us, you're against us. They turn on Kyle O'Reilly full blown because Kyle O'Reilly denies them after a lot of courting. So I think that's where we're headed. So that'll keep the Undisputed Kingdom busy. That could be Roderick Strong's first real rivalry of Kyle O'Reilly. The two know each other really well. They can go out and have a banger, bring some kind of solidify Roderick Strong's run as this champion because he's got a lot to live up to. Cassidy didn't have the best second term opposed to his first one, but I'm glad Cassidy had that belt for a while. Now let's move on. Didn't love it was Roderick Strong, but hey, I'm not a big Roddy guy, but I do like him. We'll see what he does with the title. We'll give it up for Roddy. He's certainly going to have an opportunity to showcase his abilities in the ring. Is he really a top guy in this industry? Well, he's going to have an opportunity to show that, at least a top guy in this company. Obviously, things have to heat up because they need Adam Cole back and not in a wheelchair on a little knee scooter. So that's going to be something to see as well. But you can see kind of them pressuring Kyle O'Reilly to join. And then when he doesn't do it a final time, hopefully Cole is back by then. I mean, Jesus, he's been out for a while already. I think it was September. And he didn't have his surgery right away. Like, why didn't you have your surgery right away? Silly. Next match I want to talk about is going to be the World Heavyweight Championship match. Samoa Joe, Swerve Strickland, and Hangman Adam Page. Speculation this is going to be Hangman's last match, possibly last appearance for a while, but I think we're going to hear more tonight on Dynamite as we're recording on Wednesday. We're going to hear more about Hangman Adam Page and possibly leaving. As Fightful Select pointed out, a very easy way to get him off TV is suspending him for attacking two different referees during this match to prevent Swerve Strickland from winning. Now, obviously, folks, we knew this was a really good match with three incredible competitors. No surprises. We knew it was going to be a struggle. Hangman and Swerve both costing each other, and Samoa Joe is going to take advantage of that. That's exactly what happened. It was booked very interestingly, though, because there was speculation, because Hangman tapped relatively quickly. There is speculation for Hangman. We've seen him, and Hangman used to be a guy who wouldn't tap. Now, he tapped not super quick, but he tapped quick enough to where there was speculation he tapped just to keep Swerve from winning that championship. Like, that was his 100% biggest thing in his goal. So it's been interesting. Hangman's obviously pushing towards the heel now. I think we're going to see him start really showing more of heel tendencies. Obviously, not a brain surgeon to know that. But Swerve continues his rise, and we'll see Hangman off television for a while. Is he going to come back, and is he going to still feud with Swerve? That's going to be the question. Is he still going to be messing with Swerve? Will Swerve be a champion? But then, because Swerve's still on that mission to be the AEW World Champion, maybe you see him start a program with Samoa Joe, and maybe there's a little bit of a struggle for Swerve to get back there. I don't think they're going to take the title off of Joe this quickly. I think the earliest it would happen would be, would be Double or Nothing, but you might see him holding that title into the summer. If they have a July pay-per-view or not is beyond me. So we'll see what happens. But they're going to do Joe right. Joe's bringing if anything, he's bringing stability to the World Championship, and he's doing it in a nice way. Is he going to draw a lot of numbers? No. Joe has never been a guy as a top guy to draw a ton of stuff, at least not proven yet. Not that he can't, but he hasn't proven it on a national level. He really wasn't given much of an opportunity. The opportunities he got in WWE. Look, he main evented a couple pay-per-views on the main roster. He was the world champion in NXT. So Joe had a really good run in WWE, and he was treated like a star. Sometimes people think that he wasn't treated like a star. No, he was injured, and he said it during his press conference. He was injured, but he wanted to heal and he wanted to get better, and he did whatever he could. And he's good at talking. He's a great commentator. He did a great job as commentator. But I digress. Samoa Joe wins. No surprise there. Watch Dynamite tonight to see where they take the Hangman Swerve part of this. Then we go to what I was the most looking forward to, being a old school New Japan guy. I was looking forward to Ospreay Takeshita because I knew I was going to get a top-notch New Japan-esque match. There is a lot of shitty stuff in New Japan with no selling and just people smacking each other in the chest and the face. There is a lot of that. I don't love it. I like it in spots. I think some guys do it really well. Takeshita is certainly one of them. And Ospreay could be the best bell-to-bell guy on the planet right now. And if he could stay healthy and perform the way he performed this past weekend, and same with Takeshita, if these guys can maintain this style and stay healthy, sky's the limit for both of them. Will Ospreay makes not having Kenny Omega around a lot easier. Yeah, seriously. And I love Kenny. I've been a huge Kenny Omega fan since 2015. So, look, I love Kenny. But Will Ospreay makes it feel a lot better because Will Ospreay can do a lot of the same, not the same things, but he can do things along the same kind of athletic storytelling that Kenny Omega could do. That made Kenny Omega special when he was good. Well, what about when he's wrestling a fucking doll and a 5-year-old girl? God damn it. Well, it's entertainment, and he tried to have fun, and Jim Cornette, I guess, must let 3 or 5 guys bang his wife. He was so upset. I'm joking. I'm sure it was a bullshit rumor. I'm sure He's not cuckold Cornette, but that's what someone said on Twitter once. So I'm not spreading rumors. So I do not think Jim Cornette likes to sit there and watch his wife get banged. Okay? I have no idea. And if he does, God bless him. God bless him. Back in the territory days, I used to have 3, 4, 5 guys running training my wife. Territory days were best. Beehive. Sorry. I love Jim Cornette. He's one of my favorite managers. He's probably third behind some guy who's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, which we're going to talk a lot about on our next episode, Paul Heyman, and of course, Bobby the Brain. And then I put Jim Cornette there. I know a lot of people would argue that. Jim Cornette, the way he can cut a promo and the way he can do things, I know I'm going off a little tangent here, but Jim Cornette was incredible. He can put 15 people over in 3 minutes and make you hate him and hate the Midnight Express, but at the same time, respect who the Midnight Express was. That's who Jim Cornette was. So, with all of my cuckold jokes, a lot of love towards Mr. Cornette, and I find his podcast very funny. When I agree with him, when I don't agree with him, I hate him. But it's still funny. I can still find the humor in it. Like he makes fun of Kenny Omega a lot. I'm not going to go into the names he calls them, Harpo Fingerfuck and Twinkle Toes and whatever. I laugh about it because I get why he says it, but I also understand what Kenny Omega did for New Japan Pro Wrestling and what he did for wrestling, the independent scene as well. And I also understand that Kenny Omega has had 2 of the top 10 matches the last decade. So, but go back to this ridiculous match. Will Ospreay hit so many great spots. They built it up slow. People say there's no psychology. You're not, because you don't get it. It's like people who didn't like Shawshank Redemption when it came out. You didn't get it. It's okay if you don't get it. A New Japan person does get it. Just like some people don't get why Baron Corbin was on national television retiring at Kurt Angle. I didn't get that either. So, okay, and you did, because he's the best heel in the world. Okay, if you think that, great. That's fine. But this was a primary, great, amazing match that is a great exemplary of what New Japan Pro Wrestling can be at its best, and it's even better to now be performed on national television, getting the kind of recognition. Everyone is already calling it the match of the year, and that's people that love both AEW and WWE. This was a great statement for AEW because this was the best pay-per-view so far. It was better than the Royal Rumble. It was better than Elimination Chamber. So, and by the way, everyone who watches this show knows that I'll dog AEW. I'm not afraid to criticize, and I'm certainly not afraid to criticize WWE. And I'm not saying those pay-per-views were bad, but this was better in terms of pro wrestling, in terms of some storytelling that was being made. So, obviously, it wasn't Cody's story, which I love, but this was a great, from start to finish, this was a fun, ridiculous pay-per-view, but it did have the dynamic of having Sting's retirement match, which we'll get to right now. But check out, if you ever were curious about what a New Japan match is at its very best, when you're not seeing a lot of silly stuff that, like people getting dropped on their head, you might have gotten that here and there. But Will Ospreay and Takeshita, if there's one match to go out of your way to see outside of the Sting match, which wasn't brilliant, but we're going to get into that right now. But it was a spectacle. But if you're going to go out of your way to see any match on this pay-per-view, it has to be Takeshita and Ospreay. I'm not saying anything you haven't heard already. Everyone knows how good this match was. So far, for me, it very well could be the match of the year. But we'll see what happens. I mean, the year is just starting, baby. The year's just starting. We're just into March. And we are full-blown into WrestleMania season, as that is the very next pay-per-view. Ooh, WrestleMania season. I'm excited. Sorry, AEW fans. I like WWE too now because Triple H is in charge and he does much better than what the old pervert used to do. We smell our own in terms of perverts. Anywho, we now go to the biggest moment of the night. Sting and Darby Allin against the Young Bucks. Not a surprise here either. I did not think the Bucks were going to win just because, despite what everyone thinks of the Young Bucks, they were not going to send Sting out a loser. What they did, they said, we want to be the guys to give you a great match. Or Sting could say, you are the two that I want to have my last match with because I want it to be something special. I want it to be something big. The Young Bucks said, we will happily do it. And we're going to be hated doing it, which they have been. And I hope this new character continues to go and go and go and go and go. Obviously, we saw Darby Allin seemingly trying to commit suicide. Oh God, I hope this kid never gets seriously hurt. I love him with all my heart. He might be my favorite AEW original at this point in time. Um, MJF has always been one of my guys, but Darby Allin has because of his size and because of some other things, he was never going to be this gigantic star in WWE. But he's a gigantic star in AEW. And he mentioned, he's like, I feel like I'm one of the top stars in the business company. You are, Darby. And I really hope at some point within the next couple of years, he's AEW world champion. He deserves it. He has a guy who maybe he's 110 pounds soaking wet. I'm just joking. I'm just a big fatty and I'm jealous of his leanness. He's like that Jesus on the cross look. You know what I mean? That was from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So Darby Allin had the biggest spot, daredevil spot, but Darby Allin, he is one of the biggest stars. He had the big spot, as you just saw, jumping off almost the top of a ladder into a pane of glass with just a couple chairs holding it. Wow. And he got a huge gash on it, and I don't know what else. I don't know how he's walking. But that's what this kid does every time. Maybe, and I'm glad he did it on a pay-per-view. I want to keep those kinds of things on a pay-per-view, Darby. You do these insane, ridiculous things. Keep them on a pay-per-view now, bud. Because the biggest reason is we want to see you perform for a while at the best you possibly can. So as for all wrestling fans who love your dynamic and have so much respect of the career you have already built, Darby, chill the fuck out a little bit, bud. Holy cow. Holy cow. But because of his character, his mystique, and who he is, he has built himself to be an incredible asset for AEW and AEW and original. So I can't say more about Darby Allin, but the night wasn't about Darby Allin. No. Sting had his retirement match against the hand-picked opponents, if you believe the backstage stuff. Sting handpicked the Young Bucks, brothers in Christ, and they wound up going to war with Darby Allin. Well, I don't know if he's a brother in Christ. But they had a fantastic match, what Sting called a top 3 match of his entire career. And Sting and Darby Allin win. And the big highlights, Ric Flair got beat up, which is cool. I would have had his double cross on Sting wait for the pay-per-view to maybe give him that spot right there. But that's not how they booked it, and whatever. Look, Sting obviously 100% agreed with choosing the way he wants to go out. So anyone bitching about the booking or bitching about Darby Allin's spot because it took stuff away from Sting, Sting knew exactly what was going to happen this entire match, and it was arguably the greatest send-off of all time. I got to think of some. Ric Flair's was phenomenal. Didn't take, obviously, but which kind of... I had to be honest. Other send-offs that have happened, if the guy comes back, it ruins that send-off for me. And Ric Flair certainly, I think that's a big part of it for me because we had to endure people. I didn't watch it, but we had to endure people talking about how bad his final match was with Jay Lethal and Andrade El Idolo and Jeff Jarrett. So, this was classy. Sting at the end of the match kind of stingered out, hulked out. He no-sold an EVP trigger going through a table, kicked out at one point, and that got a really great pop, kicked out at one. They had a good spot in the Takeshita Ospreay one kicking out one. So I don't have a problem with them doing them twice in a night. That'll piss off an old school guy, but for me, both moments had a lot of impact. So for me, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But Sting wound up doing everything he needed to do, basically almost finishing the match single-handedly by himself. He and Darby maintain their undefeated streak. They will retire. The tag team is retired as Sting is retiring as World Tag Team Champions. And Tony Khan announced at the media scrum that the tag titles are now vacant and there will be a tag team tournament, which is going to play more into maybe why FTR lost to the Blackpool Combat Club. You're probably going to see a rematch in that one. So very interesting time. But overall, it was a great pay-per-view. It was the best pay-per-view of the year. Some people are saying the best pay-per-view of all time, Tony Khan. I think come on. Wasn't the fuck? That was better WrestleMania 17. That was better than that was even better than most of your first 12 pay-per-views. I mean, it probably was. Again, you had that spectacle of Sting retiring, which was such a great moment. And just one thing about Sting, and then we're done for the day. I remember Sting breaking in. I've been a wrestling fan for a long time, since I was 5 years old. And I remember Sting breaking in, and I thought he was cool, but I literally was like, he seems like an Ultimate Warrior ripoff. And then once I got a little bit older, about a year later, I started learning about what the dirt sheets are writing. Then you realize they were actually a tag team, and it was like, wow. And it wasn't before long Sting won me over as not just a ripoff of the Ultimate Warrior. I love the Ultimate Warrior as a child, and then I kind of grew out of him by the time I was 13. But like 10, 11 years old, I loved the Ultimate Warrior. I just really fell out of love with him, especially after I found out the kind of person the Ultimate Warrior was. Conversely, you have Sting. And what makes Sting so incredible is that if he never stepped foot in WWE, this would still be the response he got. If he never jobbed to Seth Rollins and jobbed to Triple H, and I think he won one of his matches. I think he was 1 and 2 in WWE. That had zero impact on his legend. And he did it in a time where WWE was WWE or nothing. It's one thing if you built your legend like the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, Lou Thesz, Nick Bockwinkel, guys like that who were big stars during the territory days. That's one thing. Sting maintained this legend without ever really having the WWE machine behind him in any stretch. He's a Hall of Famer in the WWE Hall of Fame. He's already a Hall of Famer. And then he wound up having a 3-year run that was incredible. He entertained. He did things he never had done before in AEW. And then he was able to go out into the sunset the exact way he wants. And we can shit on Tony Khan all we want. We can mock Tony Khan all we want. We can say his booking is terrible. The fact that he did this for Sting is something you didn't see very often in WWE, if ever. And it's because Sting deserves it. He never wanted to be a world champion, certainly a singles champion. He never wanted the tag titles. He just wanted to help the young guys and have one decent last run. Well, he eclipsed it, and Tony was like, no, you're getting these tag titles, and you're going out a winner. And Sting's like, okay. And then that's why when people complain about the booking of this match, it wasn't yours to book, and it's not yours to bitch about. It was Sting's final moment. He said he couldn't be happier. It was arguably the greatest night in his career overall. His sons came out with a couple of spots, did a couple of Stinger splashes, and what a pop. This guy comes out in Surfer Sting outfit. Looks just like Sting in 1989 when he had that match with Flair. And then the Crow Sting came out and a little lighter. And then, of course, current day Sting comes out as his entrance. It was a great moment. Have his sons there. His sons to get retribution on the Young Bucks toward the end of the match and do Stinger splashes. One guy looks like he had some ups. He shorted it a little bit, but he leaped. Maybe if he just waited another foot, it would have been really cool looking. But it was just an incredible moment and very well deserved from what everyone has said, one of the classiest human beings that has ever been in professional wrestling. Someone said a consistent and sobering voice in times of chaos. I think that was Samoa Joe. He's been a mentor to so many. And in his contributions, he did it all without WWE. Every other big star the last 25, 30 years, every other star that you can think of had at one point had the WWE machine beside him and saying maybe their career wouldn't be complete if they hadn't been there. The last 30 years, not the previous 30. We obviously know the names Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes. They're legends with or without WWE before they got there. But Sting's the last one. But he did it and was relevant a lot longer than Flair did it. But even Flair had a great WWE run. He was champion several times. Had a great big send-off. That's part of Ric Flair's mystique. You take away that, Ric Flair still has a Hall of Fame legendary career, but it's not as cool. Sting doesn't need any of his WWE story to be a legend in this business. And he's the only one the last 30 years. I know some indie fans will be like, well, what about EC3? What about Warhorse? They need to be Hall of Fame level by everybody. and most WWE fans will tell you, there's a couple that are insane that aren't, but a couple WWE fans will tell you that it's well-deserved. WWE even acknowledged his legend. So here's to you, Sting. Thank you for everything. I remember when, just a couple of my favorite moments, obviously popping for him every time he came down from the rafters, or popping from any time he came down to attack the NWO. It was always cool. The way his character developed when he was in TNA, some really great stuff he did right in the middle of the prime of his career. But he didn't want to do it in WWE because he knew he wouldn't. Maybe he would have to sire a hand or something. I don't know what his deal was. But I can't think of anybody. They might have had great careers elsewhere. I mean, AJ Styles? No. This WWE run he has solidified him as a Hall of Famer. I mean, look, if you're an indie darling and you love independent wrestling and you value that more than widespread notoriety and big moments in general that wasn't in front of 300 people, then maybe you're going to tell me tons of people. You know, now obviously there's a new breed of people that are becoming big stars in AEW. That might be, but Sting is the last one in the last 30 years. Now that there's another big company around like AEW, maybe we'll get somebody else. Kenny Omega has a shot to be that guy, but he never really popped out. We got to see what happens. But Sting, for a guy from his era, to do it without WWE Machine is so awesome. And to do it in the class way that he always did. I love you, Sting. Here's to you, buddy. I don't know where I'd put you in my top 10, top 15, top 20. You'd be up there. But we're going to have our own list on High Spots and Cheap Pops probably within the next couple months. We're doing a top 100, so we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, if you have a chance to go watch this pay-per-view, go watch it. It was the best one yet this year in terms of matches, in terms of some storylines being presented. Not a lot of surprises if that's your thing, though. And if you don't like New Japan type wrestling, you might not like the Takeshita Ospreay match, but if you watch anything, Ospreay Takeshita is what it is. We want to thank you guys for listening on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, wherever you're listening right now. I want to thank you personally. It's a joy to talk professional wrestling, and it's a joy to love all wrestling, not just pick one side over another. So I encourage you all to do the same thing. Just enjoy pro wrestling, and let's talk about it and have fun. And let's have more pay-per-views like AEW Revolution. WrestleMania, you're up next. And that's right there, Vladi Dottie, who you might be listening. Vladi Dottie, that I get a weekend to get my Purple Nurple Championship back. This might be the shortest reign in Purple Nurple Championship history. I guarantee that's how we're going to play. So that's all for us today. You got a little portion of Moment in the Valley as I review AEW Revolution. We talked The Rock's promo. So for Vladi Dottie, this is Silicon Steve Valley. If you are on Spotify or anywhere you get your podcast, please hit the follow button. We want to hear what you have to say about what we have to say. Also, if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for all our new subscribers. We've had a great influx the last year, the biggest we ever had. So we're going to continue to go there. We're putting more videos out, getting slightly more views. So we want to continue to absolutely experience and love this current day of professional wrestling, which is one of the best ever. And let's be positive about it. WrestleMania, you're next. Pay-per-view on the list. For Lottie Dottie, this is Silicon Steve Valley. For High Spots and Cheap Pops, here ended the lesson.